We're 100% sure this morning's guest will be here because after 25 years, he's never missed a day on the job. Meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Advanced Audiology and Hearing Aid Center off of Highway 17 at 6th Avenue South, across from the main post office in North Myrtle Beach. We're focused on Dick Elliott, Part 2, and we're with the man himself. Good morning, Senator Dick Elliott of District 28. Thanks so much for coming back in. It was great being with you yesterday.
Delighted to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, the real thrill for us, of course, the excitement for viewers of Fox TV, particularly our viewers in Marlborough County and Dillon County and Marion, is the opportunity to see you on air here. But we were talking a little about yesterday about the district. It is a big district, isn't it?
It's one of the largest, broadest districts in South Carolina, but it has some wonderful people in it that have a different lifestyle, different background, a lot of diversity. And it's a very interesting district and very interesting people to serve, and I'm just so honored to serve in these 4 counties.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, having grown up, you shared with us yesterday in Kershaw County and having involvement with farming and otherwise and small business up there, the excitement of serving a district where much of what you know here in North Myrtle Beach and obviously your beach rental company, which you'd kicked off in 1959. It was amazing hearing you talk about that, but also serving a rural area is something you can do well.
Well, rural Horry County is not too much different from Marion County, Dillon, and Marlborough. So I've served in the House that covered a lot of rural Horry County, and throughout my Senate career, it's also included a good portion of rural Horry County. So when you cross the county line, you're still in a different county, but you have the same problems in those communities that you have in Upper Horry County.
Tomorrow we're going to be visiting with State Representative Tracy Edge from here, District 104, right here in North Myrtle Beach. You know, when we think about issues for the State House, where there's 126 of them traveling around the state Senate, there's a lot of big issues, but that oftentimes overlaps with 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 House members. Do you work in tandem pretty well, or even across the party lines with other representatives that cover part of your Senate district?
We do. In fact, we have a wonderful group of House members in all of the 4 counties that we work with. We've got some good folks, conscientious folks, committed people, trying to do the very best that they can. They're really good to work with. And to me, it makes no difference whether they're Democrat, Republicans, or Independents, or whatever they may call themselves. And you have to work like that. Because in a political body like the state Senate, the name of the game is getting the majority plus 1 vote to either kill a bad piece of legislation or either pass a good piece of legislation. So you don't ask people in the Senate whether you're Democrat or Republican or something else. You simply try to work with them to get a consensus, to get a majority. And it's the same thing working with people on community needs back in the House and Senate here. It makes no difference to me whether my colleague is a Republican or Democrat. I'm going to work with them to the very best of my ability on each issue in each county in every way that I can.
Those words ring true. I remember hearing Terry Cooper down on the south end talking about all that mattered was knowing how to count, knowing 6 votes or 7 votes or whatever it was just knowing how to count, not to get unanimity or the entire vote on every issue, but just knowing how to get that 6 votes, as you said, the majority or the equal amount plus 1, and that's critical.
No question about it, and it is a numbers game. And in order to be successful, you have to know how to work with people from all backgrounds and walks of life. And that's a success, that kind of endeavor that you must engage in order to be successful in getting the numbers in Columbia.
In addition to being a numbers game, seniority really comes into play. And obviously your service, the 10 years in the House, but now the 15 years in the State Senate, seniority is a big deal.
In the House side, after serving 10 years, at that point I had decided to not be involved in politics anymore. I served 8 of the 10 years on the House side on the Ways and Means Committee, where the state budget by Constitution is first adopted. Then REMAP came along in 1992, and Horry County had about 55% of the Senate district. And while I had publicly announced that I was not running for the House again, people said, "Dick, you have experience. Why don't you run for the Senate seat? You can help not only Horry County, but the other counties that's going to need a strong voice. Somebody has some experience to get off the bus running and serving well." So I was talked into running for the Senate. Now the Senate is driven totally by seniority, unlike the House. In the House, if you get along with the Speaker well, then you can get on certain committees, as I did. I served on a board with the Speaker of the House at the time in 1983.
Right.
And shortly he put me on the Ways and Means Committee. But on the Senate, you wait a time with patience. I'm next in line to go to the Senate Finance Committee, strictly by seniority. As a business person, I've been impatient to get there. But that's the way the system, I don't like it, but that's the way the system works.
Right.
The good thing about being on the Senate Finance Committee, this part of the state has been shortchanged from return back from our investment in Columbia. With a seat on the Senate Finance Committee, we can help change that. We've only had 3 years Senate Finance service by a resident senator of Horry County since 1930. Only 3 years service.
In 77 years.
In 77 years, we've had 3 years service, and that speaks volumes of why we've had to struggle to get a fair shake out of Columbia. Hopefully, in the next term of office, 3 senators more senior than I am on the Finance Committee have already announced they're not running again, so that will automatically give us a slot from Horry County and the other counties that serve, a seat on the Senate Finance Committee. I can tell you, Greg, unless you're around that table where the pie is being cut, you're going to have to sometimes negotiate the best you can with other members on the committee and take the crumbs after they cut the pie they want.
Boy, Dick, is it really that? I mean, obviously that sounds a little scary almost. For folks who are sitting at home, we want to make sure they understand you can still do quite a bit even if you're not off. For the 23 senators that are not on the Senate Finance Committee, you can still make a big impact.
You can make a big impact, and particularly from a county that generates about 12.5% of the state sales tax, about 11% of the state's entire budget, having about 4.5% of the state's population. So you can see how much additional money we send to Columbia.
Wow. That's
unspoken for when it comes to returning back to Horry County. So we've got our work cut out for us, but we paid the price now with time and involvement, and hopefully we can help make the difference in some small way in the next session.
Well, I think that's something that all of our viewers in all 6 of the South Carolina counties, or even plus Georgetown and Chesterfield and the other counties, would be interested in seeing Horry get a bigger share, a more fair share. Will you repeat those numbers again? The 12, 11, and 4%. It's 12% of the state sales tax comes out of Horry.
That's correct, and about 11% of the total budget comes from Horry.
Is that right? 11% of the total state budget comes out of Horry County,
and with a population of about 4.5% of the state's population.
But that 11% figure is so critical.
It's awesome because that's the general fund. What's happening? We're helping fund programs and needs for the rest of the state,
right?
While generally Horry County is paying our own way plus.
That is incredible. Thank you for sharing those numbers, because it is important that viewers, if someone wanted to learn more about you, Dick, and sorry we didn't talk about this yesterday, but if someone wanted to learn more about you, have a chance to contact you in Columbia to talk about needs in their area, whether they're in your district itself or outside of the district. Obviously, you serve a very important part of the state, but as well as all constituents, I'm sure, statewide. What's the best way to reach you?
By telephone.
Okay, good.
That number is 249.
Right.
1449.
Great.
Email address, Senate email address is DE at South Carolina Senate,
Right.
scsenate.org.
Okay, good.
They can get me by mail, Box 3200, North Myrtle Beach.
Great.
So by phone, by email,
That's fantastic.
or by U.S. mail.
Right across the street there, absolutely. It's
That's
good to be
correct.
close at hand. 843-249-1449.
That's correct.
Okay, that's great. Or de@scsenate.org.
That's correct.
That's wonderful. You know, we think about so many ways, and obviously reaching out for constituents to want to get in touch with their persons, you know, whether it's Tracy, who'll be with us tomorrow, yourself, surely the needs of the constituency really stands out in people's minds.
That's what elective office is all about, serving, and serving well. Make a commitment to do your job, and if you aren't committed to doing your job, you shouldn't be there. So it's public service to help people when they come to you. Just this past week, I'll tell you a little interesting story.
Yeah.
A family had a difficult problem. They came to me, and I worked with them almost 3 hours trying to help them resolve the problem, getting them through all the hoops. At the end of the conversation, when we had helped them get over the bump in the road, they turned to me and said, "Dick, are you a Democrat or Republican?" I looked at them and I said, "Does it really matter? We sat here for the better portion of 3 hours. I haven't asked you at all whether you were Democrat or Republican.
Right.
I could care less. You came for service. I've done the best I could to help you,
Right.
and we helped you solve the problem." So I don't put a lot of emphasis on partisan politics. I put a great deal of emphasis on service. And that's the name of the game. If you aren't committed to service, you shouldn't hold any elective office.
That's tremendous, Dick. That's tremendous. When we think about that, of course, you were talking about the Senate Finance Committee and the importance of getting on there. So it has nothing to do with, it's all about seniority. It has nothing to do with political party there.
Has nothing to do with parties. It's
Right.
totally driven by
Right.
seniority.
The chairmanship, though, would be determined by party there.
The
But actually
chairmanship
getting
would
on
be,
to- right, sure. That's the one component of it that would be determined by party.
And if you have a majority of the Senate that's Republican, obviously your committees are going to be
Right.
weighted so you'll have a Republican chairman.
Sure, sure.
Those committees.
You know, it's just fascinating to think about, folks, and of course, whether it's Luke Rankin, who's held service, been in the state Senate for quite a while, that neither of you all have had that opportunity to get on the Finance Committee if it has such an important role. And you'd think with all the dollars that are coming out of ORRI, they would want to open, but if it's dependent on seniority, I guess they just have to work through those mechanics.
Over the years, we had one senator at one point in time that served 21 years, Senator Stevens from Loris.
Right.
He was an attorney. He didn't want to go to the Finance Committee. The rules of the Senate say if you serve on the Judiciary Committee, you cannot serve on the Finance Committee. You cannot serve on both at the same time. His desire was to continue service on the Judiciary Committee as an attorney. And so for those 21 years, we had no one to serve, even though he could have, at that time, by
Right.
seniority,
Sure.
gone to the Senate Finance
So even though you're on Judiciary now, you will open, if the door is opened to get on the Finance Committee, you'll move on over there.
I'll move in a heartbeat, yes.
That's right.